What's going on, FPL managers? Welcome to a new video from Fantasy Football Scout. We're back after a golden game week 9 for both me and Rob. We try not to gloat too much, actually. I still think I got pretty lucky, but yeah. I'm going to be humble about it, Rob. You can be braggy. How are you, buddy?
Worries, yeah. I'm good, yeah. Well, we'll be point blank honest that obviously me and you have got two specific players in our teams. I'm
Subject of the thumbnail.
Lukaku was injured because I think that had been the gap closed actually, but you've pulled even further ahead with that Lukaku problem. So, but yeah, fantastic. Like, I honestly can't remember the last time I got triple digits in a game week that I didn't use like any chips or a double game week, for example. So it's
incredible stuff
for me.
Congrats to everyone who captained Mo Salah. Plenty in the chat. Shakir saying that he's captained Mo Salah. I think quite a lot of people did. 167% effective ownership. But nevertheless, it's a massive win with 48 points. We also had Mason Mount, both of us. Anyone who had him or Phil Foden's going to have a good game week. If you didn't have any of them, fear not. There's always game week 10 to pull you back up the ranks. And we're here to help you with all of the stats and transfer ideas for you and your teams. I was going to say, like, the reason why I thought I was a bit lucky today, Rob, is because remember we were in Game Week 9 video talking about, was it Lukaku captain or Salah captain? And I was going Lukaku, you were going Salah quite correctly. Obviously, if Lukaku played, he might have got 3 goals. He might have scored against Norwich. He might have hauled, but who knows? And then obviously that makes me switch towards Salah captain. So I think a lot of people might be in the same boat. But those sort of circumstances make me do feel quite lucky that I captained Salah in the end. So it was definitely luck, not skill. But let's move on to your team. Let's see how you got on in game week 9, 101 points. Talk us through it.
I actually feel this is going to sound really bad, but I actually feel a little bit gutted that it wasn't more. So I'll just go through why. So I want to talk a little bit about Tony later and Brentford and the issue of when do we start to pull away from that. I know they're going to go into a good run of fixtures. So I don't want to jump ahead, but I had Livermento's second bench and Tony first bench. So I didn't get Livermento's 9-pointer. The last 10 minutes, you got a double clean sheet for City getting wiped out. Rafinha going off early for Leeds. And yeah, Tony doing nothing and Gallagher not getting anything there. And Guaita clean sheet going in the last 10 minutes as well.
That was annoying. I did see that. I was watching BT Score, whatever it was, and I was thinking Rob's going to be happy, but yeah, unlucky that Newcastle scored.
Yeah, so I lost 3 clean sheets in the last 10 minutes. Rafinha going off injured early, and Christensen would have played instead of Tony, and most likely would have got a clean sheet if he was in that Chelsea backline, but that's just the way it is. You know, Mount's gone out there and smashed a hat-trick and Salah. So, I'll talk about the predictions I made. You said in the introduction about the captaincy, and before Lukaku was injured, my hat was firmly rested on Mo Salah's head. And I also said that I thought United were going to score potentially, but I was pushing the idea that Trent was going to get an attack in return because of the amount of space you get in the half spaces. And it turned out to be true. There's a lot of anger and disagreement in the chat and the comments, just saying that it was rubbish, but that's what happened. And when people look at ranks, so I know my rank's now like 629,000, but that's nothing to do with the suggestions I have or the advice I give or the football I talk about. How I play my FPL team personally is different to what I talk about on streams or videos. Like I play, I'll plot, I'll scheme, I'll make some crazy ideas, I'll do some silly moves and outlandish transfers and big hits. But that's just my own personal game to play because, in my opinion, that's how I think you'll win FPL. For me, having a stack of high top 10K finishes means nothing to me. I want to win it, or I'll come last trying. That's just how I play FPL, and I think there's a lot of issues going around, especially this game week, where there's such a gulf. It feels like a lot of the game weeks have been very tight, and this week it's kind of felt like people have got 30 points, 60 points, 80 points, or 100 plus. And I've already seen a lot of people on Twitter sort of talking about the mentally feeling uncomfortable or upset about all of this. So, I would just suggest to try and relax, take your mind off it, and just see it as a game. Try just have a fun week. Give yourself that freedom to enjoy FPL and have a bit of fun, and come to places like this and talk about it. Try not to take it too much to heart, because it's a game, and I keep saying that, and that's why I make these crazy ideas and I try and back it with stats and evidence. But at the end of the day, it's a game, and we should chat about it and have some fun. It should be something to take our mind off life, not I've got quite a stressful job, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have. This should be a place to come and take your mind off it and ease the stress, and just chat football, chat FPL, and discuss it this way, rather than taking it personally to heart. So
exactly,
easy to say now I've had a good game week, but I've had plenty of bad game weeks.
This is what I was going to say. We've had a sea of mediocrity the last few weeks, and we've done it with my rank hasn't improved that much in recent weeks, so it's nice to have a golden game week where we can actually move our ranks up by 50-60%, something like that. And I'm sure that plenty of others who have maybe had a bad game week this week have had some joy in the previous game week, so don't take it to heart too much. The nature of FPL is we're all going to have different teams. We're all going to do well at different times. So, yeah, fear not. It's not the end of the world. But you brought in Harry Kane this week, Rob. Are you still happy with that move? I think long term can get...
No. And this comes back to my discussion of I just took I knew Vardy was a sensible option. He had the and I feel for the people, because did he have like 1 million new managers or something crazy? Like, he had a huge influx. I think he's had 2 price rises this week, and he goes off at halftime with, I think he has a bit of an injury. Don't know how serious it is. I don't want to upset any people to say he's got an injury, but he was taken off at halftime, right?
Yeah, precautionary. Let's just say that.
So if that's happened to you, I completely feel for you. That was the correct move I probably should have made, because I'm a big Son fan. Like, I would happily have Heung-min Son back in my side, not Harry Kane. But I just thought, I'm not going to have a Lukaku sat on my bench. And I know that's stupid now, because it's blocked a 9-point Livramento if I'd have done nothing. But I just thought Kane scores in London derbies. He's got a great record against West Ham. He was lucky. I know it's Newcastle, but it looked like he was bringing something back, and he just completely reverted. He was awful. He helped me because his shoddy marking of Antonio gave Antonio his goal. So I'm going to actually give Kane an assist for that one, because he did nothing. But I do want to point out that I said it preseason, and when people, and we'll talk about later about Kai Havertz and stuff if you want to, but I said preseason Mount was my budget man. And I said, when you brought him in, I said, when did you first bring him in? Game week 6? The first time?
Oh, Mason Mount. Oh, I've had him
5, 6, and then you took him out and brought him back.
It seems like
Forever,
all season.
right?
I feel like I've earned Mount's points by the drama I've been through.
And I got him on the wildcard because I knew it was coming. And people say, well, how do you know that and not Havertz? But I said long-term stats. He was so impressive last year. And it's just the fact he got injured, and then he had the international break, and he got rested. It just felt that was the right move to make. And I said, when you got him all that time ago, I was jealous. I wanted him too. I could have gone for James instead, but I went for Trent. So
it was a complete freak result from Mason Mount. I would have just been happy with an assist, to be honest, because he hadn't got any returns. It was completely out of nowhere. I think it was pretty convenient from the fact that Lukaku and Werner were injured, so maybe he had a little bit more of an attacking role to play. But I think when Reece James and Mason Mount both play, that Chelsea team looks a little bit more creative. It looks like they're going to construct. I know it's Norwich, so it's a little bit of a small sample size. I think Mount and James play in the next few matches, and hopefully Chelsea can create some more chances, whether or not Lukaku is back or whatever. But happy with that 24 points, obviously, and I feel like I earned it. Rafinha, we've got to monitor him because he came off. Fingers crossed he's going to be okay for Norwich away, because that is a juicy fixture for Leeds. I want to talk about Antonio later in the show because I'm not sure whether he's sliding in form. Yes, he has scored at the weekend, but his fixtures are getting quite difficult coming up, and I wonder after Aston Villa this week whether or not he's a sell. So we'll talk about that later on. One last thing for your team, Rob. The 3-4-3 is definitely out of the game, forcing you to play 3-4-3 with the auto sub, right? You are also 5 at the back or a 4 at the back man, right?
I was 4 and I had Tony first bench instead of Livramento. So if I'd have trusted my own theory of playing defenders, I'd have been 7 points better off.
I thought Tony was unlucky not to get any returns in that game, to be honest. He set up on Buemo for a decent opportunity.
We could talk about it if you want to talk about it later, but I do want to talk about Brentford. People are jump on because of the fixtures and the price. I completely understand. But, judging by last week, you're focusing a lot more on the fixtures and I was looking at the form.
We'll come back to Tony. We'll come back to Brentford because we're going to look at the fixtures later on. I just want to get my team out of the way first. 107.
Not out of the way. Put it on the pedestal. Put it on the podium.
Got to celebrate it. So yes,
107. What a score!
So it was 111 with a -4. So very, very decent. I made a last-minute switch, Semedo to Livramento, before the deadline, and that paid off massively. 9 points to Semedo's 2. I was so annoyed when Burnley scored against Saints. I was like, typical. Yeah, Semedo's going to get a clean sheet now. But then Livramento scored. I haven't even.
Oh, he hit the post, like the corner. Like they got the corner. He hit the post.
Just unbelievable. I've made an early transfer this week, spoiler alert, and Semedo is gone from my team. We'll come to that later on, or reveal it at the end. But Livramento seems to be such good value. It just seems a shame to leave him on first bench at the moment.
But you didn't. And look at it. It paid off like an absolute dream.
Exactly. But those 50-50 calls, I wasn't like aware that one of them was better than the other. I think Wolves had a really decent shout to keep a clean sheet too. But I think those 50-50 decisions just work out for you. They balance out during the course of the season. So I'll 100% take it. The rest of the team was pretty decent. Jimenez getting a cheeky assist, Antonio a goal. My actual moves, I took a -4 to bring in De Bruyne and Tony, and that was an awful set of transfers because De Bruyne was benched and Tony didn't do anything. But I think long term, it's all right. I wanted a Brentford player for the upcoming decent 3 games they have. I think Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle, something like that. So definitely want to own Tony for that. And De Bruyne benching was really annoying because...
you are just not having you've done it with Mount. You've done it with De Bruyne. Like, you let me know who you're bringing in and I won't bring him in because he'll be benched next game week.
I was a real shock because he typically doesn't get benched. He's a machine and he plays sort of 90 minutes game in, game out. But I can't imagine he will be benched many times more. Fingers crossed. I'm going to touch some wood.
Are you trying to suggest a Pep Guardiola first 11 selection there?
But think about it. For the whole of last season, the whole of the previous season, De Bruyne played 90% of games, I'd say, if not more than that. So I think he's. I was going to bring in Mane. It was between De Bruyne and Mane, and they would have both got benched. So I think it's regardless.
That was an odd one for me.
Yeah, so I think De Bruyne is fine. He'll either be a long-term hold or he'll be a placeholder for Son game week 12. We'll have to see on his consistency of starts. But yeah, obviously it goes without saying he's an incredible player. Happy to have 2 City for the Palace match coming up. Obviously have to monitor Rafinha. I've already made an early transfer, so either will have to play Livramento at 4 at the back and just bench Rafinha and keep him, depending on how long he might be out for. But we'll wait until the presses to get final confirmation of that. But
Livramento's got Watford away, so
exactly, it's not a bad fixture. Although Watford did just score 5 against Everton, so I'm not sure whether it's a one-off or not, but we'll have to see. Anyway, pretty happy with that team. We'll come back to it at the end, see how I'm lining up for game week 10, and I'll reveal my transfer.
Just the last thing about your team then. Just want to talk about Jimenez. Are you tempted to swap that to Hwang? Or if someone was to ask you Jimenez or Hwang, what would your advice be?
100% keep Jimenez. He's
no, but like if there's someone in the chat that said, "Who should I get, Jimenez or Hwang?"
In terms of the cost per price, etc.
Well, yeah, you didn't have him. You wanted one of the two for some reason.
The cost per points, I should say. Hwang's been incredibly clinical, isn't it? 4 shots on target, 4 goals. So
I think I saw Seb say something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. So obviously I wouldn't say that is that can't continue because it's just impossible. So I think his output might decrease, or if his stats go up, then it becomes likely to continue. But I think Jimenez is just a better all-rounder. He has the assist threat as well as the goal threat. The Wolves highlights he could definitely have an opportunity to score in that match. So I'm very happy owning Jimenez, and Wolves' fixtures are still very good. So regardless of who you have, I think you should be happy, because as long as Hwang continues to score, then what's the issue? But I'm very happy at owning Jimenez at the moment. It's a really difficult front line, actually, that I think people are heading towards a cheaper front line because Ronaldo and Lukaku are blanking. Vardy potentially might be injured, and Kane is another one which he might not have that value. So Tony, Antonio Jimenez, Callum Wilson's back on the radar, as well as some other players. So I think this is what we're heading towards. Although I am tempted to sell Antonio coming up, but we will have to see when the stats come up on screen. But yeah, I'm just going to play 3-4-3 for the rest of the season. I think it's a great formation.
I think it's 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. I think for me.
Oh, that's fair enough. You like playing forward.
I was going to go for the big five, but like I said, when I talked about the big five at the back, like double Chelsea, double Liverpool, double Chelsea, double City, and Trent. But I also, when I talked about that, I said, but Livramento's just that key. He's a guy who saves you 2 million. That if you want to play five at the back and you play Livramento every week for the next 5-6 game weeks, why not? And put that 2 million elsewhere. So maybe in the future I'll switch. I just can't get to it. I keep getting injuries to people. Rudiger is out. Son was supposed to be out. Lukaku's out. So every week I've got something I have to do.
Exactly. But we're firefighting and trying to get the most out of our transfers, which I've definitely not been doing. So I'll try and up my game on that part. Well, let's have a look at some fixtures. Top of the ticker we have here, Brentford. Top of the ticker, Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle in the next 3. With Mbeumo, I mean, if you have Mbeumo, you need to, or Mbomo, however you pronounce his name, you need to monitor his injury, because I think he's taken off at 60, precautionary, but check the team news. I think he'll probably be okay, because I think him and Tony link up super well. I think probably Mbeumo makes Tony a better asset. And if Rafinha's injured, I think it's a decent move from Rafinha to Tony, depending on how long Rafinha is out. Leeds are up there on the fixture ticker as well, second below Brentford. So I really want to keep Rafinha. I think he's really good value at 6.6, 6.7.
Always agreed. I think Rafinha is a wonderful player. However, Leeds are poor.
Yeah, at the moment.
Really poor. Now, I'm not going to sell him unless I get the knowledge that he's out. Like, he's definitely out for Norwich, and Rafinha will be gone. But he's not had a double-digit haul, and he's just got 3 goals all season. And I know it's only 6.5, and that's fine, but I just feel as though I'm happy to either move money from Kane and make Rafinha go to Son, for example. Like, so Kane down, Rafinha to Son. I'd rather make a move like that, because he's a wonderful player, but I think there's only just so much one guy can do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And after this, he's got Leicester, Spurs, and Brighton. Leicester looking more like their old selves the last couple of games. You know, they dug deep against Brentford. They convincingly beat Manchester United. Spurs away. Okay, Spurs are pretty poor, but in general terms of them getting smashed, I don't think Leeds are a team to do it. And Leeds, just at the minute, are just so off the boil.
They're missing a lot of personnel, aren't they? Bamford's injured, Ayling's injured.
Phillips, I think, was on the bench again. So.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a plenty of players that can come back in and bolster that side. And I think once that happens, Leeds might go back to their usual attacking selves. But I mean, I think Rafinha was playing as a forward, as like a striker.
He was doing really well, but it's the rest of his team at the minute that I'm a little bit just thinking that I want Son, and someone has to go, and it's not going to be one of my defenders, and my only money is going to be Kane. I know people think it's a sideways move to go from Kane to Son, but I've watched Spurs every game this season, and people might think I'm biased towards Son, but I'm just not. If you watch the games, Son's the danger. He's on the set pieces. He's the man who Kane drops deep. He's still not 100% some way, either physically or mentally. Son's the danger man. and he's what, 2 million cheaper?
I think it always,
Okay.
yeah, I agree with you. I think it always depends whether you go, say, Son or Kane, depends on the type of fixtures. If it's like a really defensive team, a contained team, I think Kane is the better option because Son doesn't have any space in behind. He got plenty of opportunities against West Ham because West Ham play expansive football. And that counter-attack, which Spurs basically live off, was fairly effective. But that's the only way I can see that they play counter-attacking football, which is really limiting if another team, the opposing team, works it out. So it's interesting for me. I think either are good, but in different situations. Let's just say that.
No.
But Leeds against Norwich, like regardless of whether Leeds are being poor, I mean Norwich are just woeful. So I think if I'm just going to pray to the FPL gods, please Rafinha, can you be fit for that game? Because he, even if he wasn't taken off, he might be even a differential captain choice against Norwich, like Operation Captain players against Norwich. But yeah, let's just finish off the rest of this fixture ticker because I want to look at some under and over performance quickly, and we can talk about Leeds again then. Liverpool have Brighton next, West Ham, Arsenal, basically a good array of middling and good fixtures. Norwich, Aston Villa, Burnley, three sides which we might have not considered. Plenty in the chat asking where Chelsea is. Chelsea's just below Burnley, with Newcastle next, and who have they got? Burnley after that. So for two very decent, then Leicester, then Man United, and then Watford, then West Ham. So good fixtures, just below Burnley, probably have the same difficulty. They're probably just sorted.
You could probably change United to a green fixture now, I think, or an orange one.
Oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but surely that can't continue. I think it's just the fact that Liverpool are so good this season. I think maybe they just made Man United
Leicester
look
weren't,
bad.
and Leicester dominated them. I just think, and this is the reason I talk about Salah. You yourself with the stats of Manchester United's defense, and I think it was like 4 game weeks ago. I told you that Manchester United made the most amount of defensive errors,
Leading to a goal.
I even saw and I also saw like a stat in the corner of football yesterday that said that they were like 18th, 20th, and 20th, and defensively it was like tackles won, challenges won, things like that, and they're like relegation zone defensively. So, and that's something that I pointed out a couple of weeks ago, and it's still occurring, still going on.
Yeah, well, Man United have Spurs and then Man City in the next 2, so it doesn't get much easier for them. So, yeah, poor old Ollie. But yes, Norwich, Aston Villa, Burnley on the fixture ticker. I'm not sure we're looking at many of those players. Like if you wanted to, maybe Pookie is a shout at Norwich with those good fixtures, but that's a stretch. Watkins and Ings at Aston Villa. I think when we come to it later on, Watkins has actually been doing pretty well for a number of shots, so maybe one to consider. And Burnley, not sure I'm particularly interested in them. But let's move on to talk about under and over performance. And on this show, I'm pretty keen at talking about how that under and over performance switches between weeks to weeks. We've got Chelsea, Liverpool, and particularly Watford at the top here, ignoring Leicester. That is pretty much due to the fact that they've scored a hell of a lot of goals in the most recent game week. Chelsea 7, Liverpool 5, Watford 5. So they're overperforming at the moment, specifically. More specifically, Chelsea plus 6 point whatever it is 6. I don't anticipate that's going to continue. But yes, I mean you can see Liverpool there. Their XG is 16.76, which is ridiculous. It's miles ahead of everyone else in the league. Chelsea are down at 10, so even though they've scored 17 versus that 10.36, massively overperforming. But my point, the reason why I bring this table up, and I'm probably going to do this every week, is to monitor the teams who are underperforming at the moment, just to give a sense of maybe who might overcompensate in the next 6 game weeks, because we've definitely seen in the statistical models that it definitely happens. And what are we seeing at the bottom here? We've got Norwich and Southampton, who I think we'll probably ignore because they've been consistently underperforming. Yeah. We've seen that they haven't changed, which means that probably the quality of their attacking players is just a little bit under par, and probably that's a good segue into saying Leeds have probably underperformed because of that lack of first team personnel as well. So maybe that doesn't indicate a switch to a positive XG delta. The ones that I want to focus on are Man City, Brentford and West Ham. All underperforming and all capable, all dynamic attacking teams who have some decent fixtures coming up. West Ham doesn't, but there's no reason why they can't continue that XG and overperform it. Antonio, I just don't know.
Well, this is what I'm going to say, because you're like, one of your theories that you use as your FPL strategy is to pick up on teams that are underperforming because they should reverse it. So if you're saying that West Ham are the third biggest underperformers right now for goals, doesn't that go against your idea of backing teams that are not scoring the goals they should?
Yeah, it definitely does. But the problem is that they have difficult fixtures. So probably what that indicates from a statistical point of view is that West Ham's XG will probably decrease and they might start overperforming. So it might not actually matter. They might end up scoring the same number of goals as they are now. So, I mean, Antonio hasn't been doing amazing recently. So I don't think if you get rid of Antonio that he's going to punish you too much in this difficult run of fixtures. West Ham play... who do they play? They play Liverpool, Chelsea and City in the next 5 after Aston Villa. So, and Wolves and Brighton are no mugs in between them. So it's a really difficult run of fixtures against the 3 most solid defences. I can see a case for getting rid of Antonio, but then again, this strategy...
Well, I said this 2 weeks ago, literally, because I remember you were like, iron resolve, no, and then last week you started to falter, and then this week it's like, yeah, we'll probably get rid. And I agree, like, and this is another thing, because, and I agree with you. I said it 2 weeks ago, and I said it last week, and I agree with you now that you're saying it. I think it's so easy when people sit in a video or on Twitter or wherever, and they say, after someone's blanked 4 games in a row, I think it's so easy to just be like, yeah, probably going to get rid. I don't think he's that good, kind of thing, or he's lost his form. But you're literally saying this off the back of him getting a goal, but still looking at his stats and still looking at the underachieving and still looking at his performances with the courage to say, I'm possibly getting rid of him.
Well, absolutely.
I like it. I admire it. That's the kind of, and this is dangerous, Ted. That's the kind of thing that I would do. So
we'll come to it a bit later, because I have the advantage of producing the graphic, so I sort of know what's coming. And there might be a spoiler alert that Antonio's gone down in the stats. Let's just say that. But yes, I think you have to multi-layer consider everything. I test stats, form, all of this stuff, and combine it all together, and if it makes sense, then it seems
and it wasn't some amazing goal. He wasn't bombarding the attempts. I mean, he's got 1 bonus for a striker that scored in a game that was 1-0, and it was purely because Kane did nothing on the corner, and Antonio's,
he sort of toe poked it in, didn't he?
So it wasn't some amazing goal where it's like, oh yeah, that's a flash of quality. How can I get rid of him now? It was it's just a goal off a corner. And yeah,
I mean, West Ham are a great team. They're only 4th in the table, something like that. So they're no mugs. They've got good players. They play creative football, but at the moment they're not scoring as many goals as they did at the start of the season.
I just wouldn't get rid. It'd be next week when they've got Liverpool, Wolves, City, Brighton, Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. Keep him for Villa.
I was so surprised. I've been massively sort of against Arsenal this season, because a lot of people saying, get Saka, get Smith Rowe, get Ramsdale, get Tierney, get Ben White. And I just thought, Arsenal are so bad. I couldn't understand it. And Arsenal were fantastic. I've got to give credit to them. I think they absolutely battered us. I was so surprised how bad Aston Villa were. So surprised.
Yeah, I think Arsenal can turn it off and on at the moment, can't they? But I think having Thomas Partey back makes a massive difference for them. They played Aubameyang out front, didn't they? Saka in the middle, and Pepe makes a difference. I think they've got a good team, and Arteta will get it going. But obviously they can have off days, and that's definitely prevalent in an Arsenal season. So the only Arsenal player I have at the moment is Ramsdale, and I'm not particularly sure. But with that in mind, let's move to talk about goalkeepers. I've got the goalkeeper chart up here. So you've got Guaita, Rob. I've got Ramsdale. And I think there's a lot of change afoot on this chart, basically. Mendy is the highlight, and he has not moved in the last 5 or 6 game weeks. He's always been top for XG prevented. In the top right, Chelsea are leaky enough for him to be able to make plenty of saves during a game. So I think he's really justifying that 6 million price bracket. I think if you've gone for Mendy, you'll be very pleased with yeah, and
Christensen.
Yeah, exactly. So just to run through the chart for anyone who might be a little bit confused about what's going on here. The icons towards the right-hand side indicate that they have a high amount of saves per appearance, which is obviously good for save points. And goalkeepers towards the top of the page have a good XG prevented, which is an indication of their ability, their shot-stopping ability. We've got Schmeichel down there, who's really letting the side down, conceding way more goals than he's actually getting shots. So that XG on target conceded figure is the one above his name, and the goals conceded is the one below his name. The 1.67 means that he's conceding more goals than the XG on target. And we can sort of apply that to the other goalkeepers in the chart. The other aspect is that we want those numbers to be quite low, because that indicates that they're not really conceding much XG. So the likes of Ramsdale, 0.7, 0.67, that's pretty low. That's very comparable to City, to Chelsea. Who else? Maybe Brentford. I think Raya there is pretty tough, because that's indicating that he's not a good pick. But I mean, Brentford have had a really tough run of fixtures in the last 4. Leicester, Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Wolves and Brighton. So pretty tough set of fixtures. And I think that's probably skewing his performance there, because I think Raya is an excellent keeper. And you backed him at the start, Rob, didn't you? You were considering him over Guaita.
Yeah, I had him before Guaita, then accidentally changed him on a wild card and priced myself out of him.
Yeah, no, it one
but
of those
I will
things.
say, Guaita has got me 2 points every game week. So
Yay!
that's something. And now I have to decide whether to start Guaita or Foster this game week.
I think 4.5 million goalkeepers are pretty tricky. I think you're going to get good value regardless, but it looks like Sanchez and Ramsdale are the ones. Maybe Guaita, third best, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, there's a lot of 5 millions out there. There's a lot of 5.5 millions you can go with, but I just don't think that they're that good value. I think you either go Mendy or a 4.5. So.
Well, I mean, Martinez, I called him at the start of the season, He's 4 points behind behind Mendy.
Yeah,
so
but
he's up there.
But he's 0.5 less than Mendy. I would just go Mendy for that increase.
0.6.
Okay, fine.
Every penny counts.
Yeah, so Edison and Alisson.
I would pay the extra for Mendy, though. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. This is the problem with expensive goalkeepers. If they don't represent save value, they're not going to represent good FPL value. Like Edison and Alisson are probably stating at the moment. Not many saves, but they can compensate with some 6-point clean sheets every week. But it doesn't happen. Brighton scored against City. Ruined some clean sheets for us City defensive owners.
Double for me.
But these things happen, and you need save points from your goalkeeper. A nice balance. But so here's a question for you, Rob. If you were wildcarding right now, which goalkeeper would you pick?
Mendy. Yeah, Mendy.
Mendy,
when I was making my decision, when I had double Chelsea, I went with Rudiger, Christensen and Guaita and gave my money elsewhere. But I think you were considering the same thing about, do I go Mendy and one defender? Because at the time, James was out and Alonso was still on the start 11. So we weren't looking at wing backs back in game week 6, game week 7, because Alonso was the wing back and Azpilicueta was on the right side and James was out or dropped, and Chilwell was just not in the picture at all, like 3 game weeks ago, right? Now he scored like 3 and 3. So he was the last decision I was going to make. It was Mendy or an outfield defender. And I just couldn't be doing with the idea of a random Kepa goalkeeping situation. I wanted a goalkeeper that was going to play pretty much every minute. And that's the problem with the likes of Edison and Alisson going off with Brazil. So I'll be boring and get those 6 pointers from players like that. But the issue you're going to have is they go away for international duty. And Mendy, that was the nail in his coffin because he's off to AFCON in
But I mean, that's miles away. So
yeah, but just it was in the back of my mind that I didn't want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Your FPL station in the chat is asking about McCarthy. Is he 4.5? I think he might be.
Yeah, but you've got Livramento, and I'm not going to double down on the Southampton defence despite a clean sheet. But again, Forster is always in the back of my mind because remember, out of nowhere, Fraser Forster came back last year and got some game time, and he's 4.4. Like if it was 4.5 and 4 million, maybe, but it's just always in the back of my mind. Like Guaita is bang on nailed.
He is, but it's Palace.
Bang on nailed. That's why I didn't go for Ramsdale, because Ramsdale is not. I think there's going to be a game week where, hello, Leno, you're back in goal for a week.
Who knows? But I mean, the goalkeeper situation in any team is normally you give them a decent run of fixtures, and then it's a fundamental change. I just don't think if Leno gets back in the team, I think it will probably be because he's lost faith in Ramsdale, and it's just an easy goalkeeper transfer.
There's too many ifs for me. I just wanted a nailed goalkeeper, so
that's fine. I think
I would go Mendy.
My personal view on McCarthy is if you don't own Livramento, then yeah, Southampton do have a good run of fixtures, so I don't think it's a bad option at all. And Southampton have proven to be fairly solid at the back, so seems to be getting a few saves, but certainly not as many as other goalkeepers. So you are going to have to compromise in that respect. But let's move on to defenders. Enough with the goalkeepers. I think most people have their goalkeepers set already if they're not on wildcard. But we've got the defender chart up here, which is the attacking prowess of defenders in the last 6 game weeks. Have to say that this is not normalised for a number of games they've actually played. So that means that Trent Alexander-Arnold, Chilwell, is Reece James on there? I don't think he is, but the likes of those guys, they're probably suppressed. So like Alexander-Arnold hasn't played, I think he played 4 out of the 6. So all of those numbers are just from 4 games, which is pretty encouraging. I wouldn't worry as Trent owners. They are incredible numbers, and we've seen that he just blows the stats apart in most full 6 game week periods. Chilwell has done it in 3 game weeks, so 6 small chances for Chilwell, 1 big chance, and we've seen that obviously he scored 3 goals in 3 matches, which is incredible. Probably unsustainable, I hope, because I haven't managed to go Chilwell, but I probably would have if I could have afforded him. But insane performances from Chilwell. Are you tempted by him, Rob?
Yeah, for sure. You know, when I said I'm going big at the back, I'll also, because I've got a good bench, when you was pointing out last week about like, oh, you've got, Tony on your bench this week and sometimes Gallagher, sometimes Livramento. That's why for my 4 defenders, I'll punt on the Jameses, the Chilwells, the Cancellos, the Trents, the ones that are the proper attacking ones. Or you look at this list, Rudiger, centre half, second for small chances is massive. He just loves a run down the middle, doesn't he?
He does.
He just absolutely loves it. But I want to point out again that Matt Ritchie's on this list. And one of these days, people are going to start opening their eyes up to the joy that is Matt Ritchie.
I will end the stream. Rob, if you go on about Ritchie.
But as a serious point, someone who I pointed out after his very first game is on that list, and that's Cucurella at Brighton.
Yeah, decent. Yeah, lots of small chances created.
His first one, when I said he was the one that massively stood out to me, I think, is it 4 game weeks, and since then it's like 3 clean sheets, and now he's popping up on this chart. So
the problem with Brighton is they just don't convert their chances. It seems like every shot is off target, which is just a nightmare. But yeah, I mean that's a bit harsh because Trossard has been fairly decent. But Cucurella is presumably just crossing the ball in, so that's reliant on the bigger guys, the defensive set pieces to get on the end of it, and they just haven't been. So he does look flary. I'm not sure he's a legitimate FPL option just
No, it's
yet.
too expensive. He's just like, you can see Cash there in the small chances top 5. For me, Cucurella is just like the Villa players, like Martinez and Cash, and like Mings. I'm 5 million for a defender. That's why I went for Christensen. I was like 5 million for an occasional benching for a Chelsea defender, or am I going to pay that money for a mid to lower mid-table side? Why would I? If they were all 4.5 million, it would blow it open because they would be really good options for 4.5. But 5 million plus for Villa and Brighton defenders just.
Yeah, they're just a no-go at the end of the day. But I liked your shout about Rudiger. Like when we watched the Chelsea match, he had a really decent long-range shot on goal, and he's clearly been doing that consistently. He's clearly had license to maraud forward from that centre-back position and have a shot. So he might score one eventually. You never know. Clearly has license
rule
to
of
do it.
chances or something, isn't it? You'll know that in the stats world.
Exactly. Another guy on here for big chances, Janssen at Brentford. They've got three really good fixtures coming up. I don't see why Brentford can't keep clean sheets in all of them. And if he's got additional goal threat, Brentford are pretty good at set pieces. So
it's not just that; it's long throw. Like they're not gonna like it. I'm not going to say they're as bad as Stoke. Obviously, they've got some really nice football. But I tell you what, like when they were trying to pepper that goal, it was all about lobbing big lads forward to try and get a goal.
Yeah,
launching it in. That's all that they were doing, which is fine. But that's probably why Janssen's gonna stick out on that one because it's just launching into the box to the big lads in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if you haven't got big at the back, then maybe Janssen is a decent pick for the next three. But
got tall at the back. Yeah.
Big at the back and another reason. Love that. So Luke Shaw is the other one. He's got some fairly decent stats, but just terrible fixtures. And Man United are just...
Rule one, if you're getting a defender, you got to look at clean sheets, and you're just not getting that from Manchester United. And I sort of joke about like Matt Ritchie, like you're not going to go there, but Cancelo's top there, you could get clean sheets, and you've got that attacking. Janssen, big man in the box, but he could get those clean sheets. Rudiger could get you the clean sheets. That's why you're looking at those players. So you do want that attacking flair, but you do want to have in the back of your mind the idea that I reckon he could get a clean sheet here today. And have you felt that way at all about Manchester United, especially in the last few weeks and with the fixtures coming up?
To be fair to them, they have had a tough run. Liverpool, Leicester, Everton, Villa, West Ham.
No. Leicester were rubbish every game week before they played against Manchester United. And Manchester United are supposed to be a top 4 team. So there is no tough fixture for them. So it should not be for them except Liverpool, Manchester City and Chelsea. They are the only time that Manchester United should say, that's a pretty tough fixture for us today. Every other fixture, if you're a Manchester United fan or a Manchester player and anything connected to Manchester United, they are the only 3 fixtures where you will admit today could be a bit of a tough one. Anything else is unacceptable for Manchester United. So I will respectfully disagree with you on that one, Ted, because I don't think they shouldn't have been tough fixtures.
Tough love from Rob, but I completely agree with you, to be honest. I was just trying to be nice, but
Well, that's what this is, Ted. You're the nice one and I'm the nasty one.
Good cop, bad cop. Love it.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on from defenders and have a look at midfielders and forwards all combined. And there's an elephant in the room here. And it's a Mr. Mo Salah just setting the pace, just miles ahead of the rest. And we're talking about perma-captain Salah from now on. Seems like a legitimate option. And I can't really disagree with the community who's suggesting it. He's just poles apart. I just don't see, even in the tough fixtures, it seems like he's the one. But there's plenty of other players to talk about here, and Josh King is there for the first time. And someone in the chat, I can't remember who, said, "Why isn't he on the starting graphic, the thumbnail hat-trick hero?" So yeah, I've definitely missed him out. Deserved, and his hat-trick against Everton. The problem is that Watford have some tough fixtures coming up, and he would be tempting at 5.5, but he's got Saints, which is okay, but then it gets steadily worse. Arsenal, United, Leicester, Chelsea, City, so that's tough. So I'm not going to dive in straight away at Josh King, but keep an eye on him, because if he continues to do well, then when the fixtures do get easier, then he might be one to jump on. Definitely some good stats. But this is normalised, so just one game, small sample size for King. Take it with a pinch of salt, because hat-trick on his in his one game against Everton, very, very decent. But yes, the chart itself is big chances created. We're just looking at the big chances today. The big chances created across the bottom, so players furthest to the right have a really good creative side. We've got De Bruyne there. We've got Tony. Tony's been good at creating. Fernandez, Daka. If Vardy's injured, could he get a run in that team?
I think he's looked absolutely fantastic. I mean, was it 4 goals he got in the Europa League? It's just one of them. Like Iheanacho looks now that he could be getting some starts. He's got another 90. He got his first 90 minutes under his belt. And he's so good. When they played with 2 up front, Leicester has just back to normal. They should have done this from the start of the season. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know what Iheanacho did to lose his place at the start of this season, but it looks like he's got it back. But Daka looks so good. He genuinely does. He looks exciting. He looks energetic. But I mean, he's played 84 minutes all season. But he did 45 minutes against Brentford and got an assist. He came off the bench against United and got a goal. And then he's got 4 goals in between that. So
exactly.
You know, he's definitely one to invest in, but not in terms of FPL, because I know, like you said about King, Daka is also the exception to your rule here, where King got a hat trick, but it's like small sample size. Daka's is 84 minutes all season. So
yeah, exactly. This isn't normalized for minutes. This is just appearance. So he's managed to accumulate this in the small number of minutes or substitute appearances he's actually had. I have to say that Vardy isn't necessarily injured. It's just conjecture at the moment. But you know, Daka could get a run in the side if Vardy is injured or confirmed out for a few games. A lot of people in the chat saying Iheanacho is probably the one that will take over in advance of Daka, but there's no reason why they can't both play maybe in a front
2
two.
up front. They've gone back to 2 up front, and they've been 10 times better since they've done that. So why not stick Daka and Iheanacho? Daka and Iheanacho as a strike force could be absolutely lethal.
Yeah.
Could be so deadly. I mean, of course, when Vardy's fit, he's in the starting 11. But if he's out, Daka and Iheanacho as a front 2.
How much is Daka? I'm just going to look it up.
7.1.
Oh, he's quite expensive. I thought he would be cheaper than that.
I think he said at 7.5 went down, but I'll have to double check that. Or he's already risen in price for some reason.
Kind of puts me off a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's gone from 7.5 to 7.1.
Wow. Okay, so highly rated by the community.
Well, he actually went from 7.5 to 7.0, so...
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, probably at 0.1 less, maybe Iheanacho is a better shout. But certainly doing the stats, I mean, Daka seems to be representing decent value. So, yeah, again, take it with a pinch of salt, but these are the numbers. Jota's fairly close by, and Jota's always an enigma for me. I haven't owned him once this season, but I always kind of wanted to. And we've got that. I know we said last week that the 7.5 million midfielder price point was super difficult, but ironically, they all did well this week. Jota scored, Foden scored, Mount obviously got a hat trick for us and an assist, but it seems like it's going from there's no options, I want to get rid of them all, to I want all of them now. And I kind of want Foden, but I can't fit him in my team. So I suppose with that rotation risk, Jota maybe goes down a peg, but I think Liverpool are so good that maybe when he does start, he probably just levels out the playing field and scores just as many. I think Foden was fairly fortunate with a couple of his goals this week. Not to poo-poo the ownership of Foden, because I think he's a great player and I kind of want him as well, but his goals were kind of fortunate, I'd say. But still,
he had the most shots this game week.
Yeah, exactly.
With 8.
So the stats are definitely backing up. He seems really lively, and he's, if you look at this chart, like furthest to the top right, he's in the top 5 or 6 players for big chances. So incredible stats. And who's to say like Mount's goals were pretty lucky as well. Like a long range effort, a retaken penalty.
It was an obvious retaken penalty. He meant to nutmeg the defender to hit the post and in. I think easy, I reckon.
Yeah, so I think if you own Jota, I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of him, because he's going to play most of the time, I'd say, and maybe miss 1 or 2 games here or there, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
I'd say the same thing for Jota. I'm the same as you. I've not owned Jota and I've not had Foden, but I'd say the same thing, the same feeling, and Greenwood would be in there as well, but he's dropped off now. That don't get them if you can't handle the benching. So again, the reason why I've got more risky defenders and more risky players is because I've got a good bench. So for example, I had Tony coming off the bench, which isn't bad, and Livermento second sub, which he gets 9 points, but that's not bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you even said like, oh, points on the bench, but I know I've got sometimes a risky starting 11. If you've got Jota and you've got Foden, have someone even if it's Livermento, just have someone first bench and deal with it. If you can't, like, I'm not a person that wants to spend 7 to 8 million on a player and have that. Oh, is he bench? Is it? Oh, let me wait for the clean sheet. Let me wait for the team sheet and the lineup. Is he in? Is he not? Oh, is he on the bench? Is he going to come off the bench? Oh, is he going to block this 9-pointer coming off this week? If you can't deal with it, don't have him.
I think most of us are going to have fairly decent benches, aren't we? Because we've probably wildcarded in 7 or 8. If you haven't wildcarded, then maybe it's not the move for you. Because as you say, Rob, quite rightly, I think if you have someone whose rotation, who might be rotated, then you have to have a decent bench, and that's basic FPL strategy. And for me, I mean, I'm probably considering a move to a 3-5-2 if I do downgrade Antonio to add to the 7.5 midfielders ranks, and I'll probably either bring in Foden or Jota. I don't know which one it will be, but
what is it that drags you? So Jota, I understand, but what is it that really drags you towards Phil Foden?
I mean, the consistency of starts is pretty appealing, and he's playing as a striker. And before the game at the weekend, I would say that I'm not completely convinced, but I thought he was super dynamic in that game. And I think City looked decent. I don't see any other player that can play in that striker position as well as him, ironically, because Jesus seems to be shoved out onto the right wing.
Well, he asked for that, and he's been absolutely fantastic. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Singing his praises since the first 5-0 against Norwich when he was just phenomenal. 2 assists.
Foden could be that player that everyone sort of goes, oh yeah, he's all right. And then slowly the season ticks by and he's played every single game as Man City's striker and you've never brought him in for some reason. And you go, why on earth didn't I bring him in? So I kind of want to get on that boat before it sort of sets sails, really.
But look, you've just had Kevin De Bruyne benched. And I know he's down the middle, but maybe Kevin De Bruyne plays there. Maybe, I mean, if you can handle it, but for me, 8.1 million is a lot of money for me to be worried every single game week. I mean, Foden's only played the last, 4 games? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he's only played the last 4. He played 0 minutes from game week 1 to 4, and then 18 minutes in 5, and then 86, 90, 90, 90.
I'm just going to ask you this. I'm going to play devil's advocate here because City's next fixtures are Palace, Man United, Everton, West Ham, Villa, Watford. And West Ham's are Villa, Liverpool, Wolves, City, Brighton, Chelsea. Who would you have, just regardless of formation or anything? Would you have Antonio or would you have Foden?
Antonio.
Really? I'd have Foden.
Antonio. Yeah, Antonio, because he's going to play 90 minutes and he could score a goal. Foden could score 2 goals in 5 games, but he'll only play 2 goals. He'll only play 2 games in 5.
I'm going to put a poll up on chat. Who would you rather
Antonio or Foden
in the next 6? Antonio or Foden? I think that'll be a
lot of recency bias or Ted biased, I think, in this poll voting. Hey, how do I vote? I want to see this poll.
No, you're not allowed to vote.
I vote for myself.
This
is a democracy.
Let's see. Well, let's talk about some other players because there's plenty of others that are either split into the big chances or the big chances created. We've got Callum Wilson there, who's just come back from injury and sort of set the world alight a bit. He's been scoring fairly freely, had a really decent overhead kick at the weekend, which I watched the replay back of that. It just looked like he sort of fell over and with amazing technique. But still, I think, Newcastle, there's no reason why Callum Wilson can't score fairly regularly for Newcastle, but who knows? Cristiano Ronaldo.
So good. I think it's because he's back and he's got Matt Ritchie knocking the balls into him, into the danger zones. That's what it is.
Definitely Ted bias on this poll for sure. Foden at 70%.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, if 70% of the people want to be wrong, then that's fine.
Good cop, bad cop again. Love it.
No, like honestly, if you told me, if you change the question and you say, okay, I promise you he'll play the next 5, because like, do you have any doubts? And like, let's not injuries and make jokes of his poor hamstrings.
Yeah.
Next 5, Antonio, do you think he plays the 5 games?
Yeah, I think he probably does. Yeah, I think he.
90 minutes, 80 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Foden, the next 5. Do you think he plays them all?
Maybe not all, but maybe most. I mean, he certainly played. I think in the last 6 or 7 games for City, in the Champions League and in the Premier League, he's only missed 1 game, and that's pretty. It's a pretty strong case for saying that he'll probably play 90% of the games going forwards. Because as I said,
wasn't it last year that Foden played and he was amazing, and then he just didn't play for like 5 games?
Yeah, but it's a different case this year because they've got different players. They've got different players playing in different positions. You know, Aguero and Jesus do not want to play as a... Well, obviously Aguero's not there, but Jesus doesn't want to play as a striker. So who else have they got? Torres? Torres didn't do that well at the start of the season. So if Foden makes that sort of kind of false 9 position his own, then there's no reason why he can't continue to play there. I'm kind of like talking myself into moving for him maybe in not this week, but maybe next week.
I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's one of the, if not the most technically gifted young players out there. And if you told me that, if I felt more comfortable with him, then for sure. But I just feel like, does he play against Palace? Does he play against Club Brugge? He probably plays against United. I mean, if he's playing against Liverpool, he's probably trusted to be playing against United in a derby, right?
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, is your only concern because you don't think he's going to start most of the time?
Yeah.
I kind of disagree.
I've got no problems with his quality. I think he's absolutely fantastic. But when we started this conversation, I said to you, if you can't deal with the benchings, like I said, I always can't. That's the same thing I said about Diogo Jota. If you can have Foden for 8.1 million and you see he doesn't start and he comes on in the 80th minute and doesn't do anything and gets 1 point, that's your decision. Live with it.
I forgot that Torres was injured.
Yeah, he's injured till like January.
Yeah.
So
1st of Jan. So who plays at that striker position other than Foden?
Well, he can move Jesus there. He can move De Bruyne there. He can play Sterling there. Sterling missed out. He was injured with like a back strain. They've got Mahrez, and it's not just about who can play down the middle. Anyone can. Hasn't Grealish played down the middle?
Richard in the chat, you need a decent bench, mate.
I know. This is so annoying because last week I was getting pummeled for having points on my bench, saying, "Oh, why you got Tony on your bench? That's a waste of money." And then I'm saying I can do this. Oh, well, you need a bench. People just can't make the mind up.
What am I supposed
to do?
You need to go Foden, mate. Then you might use your bench.
Go Foden. I don't even think I can go Foden.
Anyway, I've had too much of a loving for Foden there, only because he's in my thoughts. But you've got like Hwang and Jimenez there. I think both are decent options. Mason Mount has come back, and I think most of those stats are probably just from that last game, to be honest. So
yeah, all the stats.
I'm hopeful for the next couple of good fixtures for Chelsea that Mount could do something, but I mean, long term, I probably won't keep him that much. I've sort of got what I needed from him. I think he's never going to score a hat-trick again this season. I don't think.
All claims.
It was Norwich, and it was sort of a weird situation where other players weren't playing for Chelsea. So do you really think that Mount? I mean, he said in the interview afterwards, he never had scored one more goal. He'd never scored more than one goal for Chelsea in a single match. So I mean, that probably says it all.
Well, he's an assister usually, isn't he? But yeah, just coming back. Like, do you remember last week when people were joking again when I talked about it's not about Chelsea, it's not about the player that plays down the middle, it's about Tuchel's tactics. And you remember when I listed off like or every game that Tuchel's played, the centre forward, the guy down the middle, where Havertz played this time, where Lukaku plays, where Werner used to play. And you remember when I listed off like 0-0, 1-0, and people were like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, he's talking in binary and having a laugh. Like,
that was a really decent stat. That was a really decent stat.
The positions behind
yeah.
Lukaku, Werner, Havertz's position is the danger zone. So Mount and whoever's next one behind them. So when people were saying, like, if you brought Havertz in, I completely understand. Well, but when people say that Havertz was unlucky because he got nothing in a 7-0 home win as the guy down the middle up front is just wrong. Like, it is just actually wrong. Like, he wasn't unlucky in that game. If you watched it, so his form's not there, long-term or short-term. The eye test wasn't there. I thought he didn't play well at all. The stats aren't there. So his XG was 0.12. His XA was 0.04. XG on target, 0.05. His heat map is sporadic, not in the box where you want your striker to be. And again, this was a reason why I said I wasn't going to go for Lukaku. When I listed off the list, it's all about the tactics. So you can feel about Mount, but he hasn't played. But I just feel as though that's why I'm probably not going to bring Lukaku back in, because it's not that middle part for Chelsea. If you're going to go for the attack, it's the two lads behind him. But the one I want to point out, and sometimes there's a bit of FPL snobbery in the community, you know, when people will mock like the casual players, right? But when do we genuinely agree or start to seriously look at Kovacic?
Who knows? I mean, it's difficult to argue, isn't it?
And I'm not saying bring him in, but I will say that when I've made predictions or suggestions or when I've talked about a player and people give me grief and say, oh, he's a casual, or he doesn't always talk about or whatever, there has to be a line of when we say, when is it time to seriously look at a guy who's 5.3 million? He created the most created the most chances this weekend. He's making those through balls. The danger man is the two behind the striker who rotate. You've probably got double defense in Chelsea. Why aren't we looking at that guy? Why are we running to Havertz just because he's down the middle when I've already listed all the amount of goals that position has scored, where Tuchel's tactics does not focus their primary goal scoring threat down that player down the middle. 5.3 million for Kovacic, who is on 46 points so far this season. So you've got Ben Rama, who had a wicked start and has fallen off a cliff for West Ham, right? You got Townsend on 47, Tielemans on 47, Kovacic at 46. He's ahead of Decore, he's ahead of Sarr, he's ahead of Gray, he's ahead of Smith Rowe, Bernardo, Gallagher, Bowen, Fornals, Zaha, Rafinha, Souček, Saka. He's ahead of all these players, but then casuals have picked him. But if you watch the game, he gets the ball, he threads it through to the fullbacks who are scoring or to the players that play behind, so the Mount positions, and he's getting the assists.
Obviously, we were talking about his performance against Norwich, which was fairly decent, and he got a couple of assists in that game. But the problem is that his attacking potential will be definitely influenced by the system that Chelsea play, and that will definitely be hindered by the likes of Mount and James coming in and playing that creativity. Maybe in the tougher games, Kovacic doesn't have that much of attacking appeal, and I guess that 5.3 price point is super difficult to accommodate as well, because but what are you going to do? You have to play 3-5-2 in order to accommodate him, I think. And
just as a bench man. Oh, I know you want to play 3 Chelsea every week, but I just think 5 assists and a goal over the course of the season.
It's fairly good for his price,
million.
Of course.
And he's almost a 90-minute man. 90 minutes, 64, 72, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 45, 71, 90. So
I kind of see where you're coming from, but it's a bit of a stretch for me. I'm not 100% sure.
I just wanted to bring him in the conversation. Like, a lot of people saying Havertz is unlucky and going for this guy, but you know, there's sometimes people get angry. Oh, you're going for Kovacic. That's such a casual move, and it's like, well, actually, stat-wise, he's creating chances.
Well, let's
only 5.3 million.
Let's bring it back to Havertz, because I agree with what you were saying in terms of I think he had a poor match compared to the other players that were playing. He lost the ball. His touch was poor. he didn't really deserve to get on the score sheet. But I understand where people are coming from in terms of, if you think about the game objectively, if you had brought in a player who's a striker for Chelsea against the worst team in the league, it's unlucky that that player blanks. I think that's where the unlucky.
It's a little bit like City, and it's a little bit like like Liverpool, where that position isn't the goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, Firmino
not the main threat. In a 7-0, if Firmino doesn't score, you wouldn't be as shocked if it was Mane or Salah that didn't score. Just because it's a big scoreline doesn't automatically say the big guy down the middle must score. Like it doesn't. Football doesn't work like that. Yes, it was 7-0. Yes, they absolutely battered Norwich, but the goalkeeper didn't score. Yeah, and I know they're completely different positions, but my argument is just because he was the centre forward did not entitle him to score a goal.
Agreed.
Because he didn't deserve it. Nothing in the eye test, nothing in the stats, nothing in his performance said that he deserved anything from that game.
It'd be interesting when Lukaku gets back, because I think Reece James definitely helps Lukaku's goal appeal, certainly from the crosses that come in, and Lukaku's headed goal attempts might increase, and those types of goals might get converted more often, and that might put pain to your strategy, your sort of evidence that the too cool striker doesn't score many, which is definitely the case, because those numbers speak for themselves. The array of zeros in the last 30 matches is completely prevalent. But I think, I'm not in a rush to get Lukaku back in either, but I think he could be the one that sort of moves away from that trend.
You're a guy who values the points per million kind of idea. You're not going to captain him, are you? Or will you if he's back? If the game's gone.
If it's a decent fixture, then I would. But yeah, you're right. I think he hasn't proven enough. He hasn't got enough form. His stats are fairly middling. So yes, I wouldn't. Which means, yes, you're right. The fact that he's a premium player means if you won't captain him, then it kind of makes it less viable to have a premium. That actually is an interesting conversation to have, actually. If we're going to perma-captain Salah, why do you need another premium?
I said this last week. I said, and literally we discussed it when I said you could play it really boring. You could have a big back five, perma-captain Salah, and just rotate everyone else. Because the money you save by having no other premiums than Salah and just maybe having a Son will give you such a good squad. If you, we get Ronaldo or Lukaku or Kane, but we're never going to captain him. We just captain Mo Salah, right? Which means that pretty much every other player over 10 million might not really be worth it, right? For points per million. So just imagine having a full squad of your entire midfield. The cheapest player is probably Rafinha. Your forwards are probably all 6 to 8.5 million. Your entire 11 would be strong. You just wouldn't have those breakout players, but the premiums are not pulling the weight right now.
It's a really interesting one. It's nice to be creative and think of these sorts of ideas. But as soon as you talk it through, you're like, oh, here are the pros and cons. And I'm like, oh my God, what happens if one premium starts doing really well again? And then he becomes... How do I get to him? How do I get back to him? And that's the issue. So it's all about maintaining that flexibility. I'll bleat on and on about it. But yeah, maybe short term, if you do have a semi-premium option like Son in, maybe you can upgrade the rest of your team, and maybe it just takes 2 transfers to get back to another premium midfielder at 12 million, something like that. But yeah, let's talk about some other players on this chart. Benteke is an interesting one, and I can't even believe that I'm suggesting Benteke is a legitimately viable option for your front three.
He was the biggest underachiever this week. Do you know that?
Well, I didn't actually.
Underachiever. Well, there you go.
But
even more
in a flary Palace side, could he get
down the middle? Who does get the goals?
Yeah.
They do focus on that big man in the middle.
I need some more evidence for me to be able to.
No. I've got 2 Palace. Trust me, you're all right there. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. But I definitely want to monitor. I mean, I'm not going to poo-poo him. I think he's.
Is he what? 5 million? 5.5? How much is he?
He's one of those players you just don't even look at his.
6.3.
6.3. Yeah, it's okay price. If he continues to score, then maybe. But
Just the fixtures are all over the place. Because the reason why I've not gone like Mbomo, Tony double up is because I like the I don't want to double up on Brentford. As simple as that. I just don't feel like the people looking at the price and looking at plucky old Brentford and not actually looking at the points the players are getting. One's enough for me. I'm not going to double down on Brentford.
I'm super surprised at how creative Tony is. Like, he must be towards Mbomo specifically, but
you don't want that from your striker. That's just like a poor man's Firmino.
This is
like, I don't want that from my striker. I want him to be in the box scoring goals. That's why like I said last week, if you were to ask me take one, Mbomo or Tony, I'd take Mbomo because he's going to get you a goal more likely than Tony.
I kind of disagree with that because even though Mbomo tends to have the chances that Tony might set up for him, he doesn't have that ability, that finishing ability to consistently. Most of his shots are off target. We'll actually come to it in a minute. But Tony, these are only big chances, and I have to say Tony does shoot a lot, but they're mostly from far away, and he does have a decent strike on him, and I think he had a goal disallowed at the weekend as well. So I think he's
just offside from I think it was Rico Henry on the build up. Yeah, it was unlucky, and it's supposed to on pens. He's a great option at 6.4. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not gonna get rid of him. I've got him in.
I'm a very happy Tony owner.
But I just in FPL, you want your strikers to score goals and your midfielders to set them up, and not the other way around.
Well, you've
fewer points at the end of the day, right?
You've definitely have like other examples in the past few seasons, if even this season, to disprove that. I mean, Jimenez for one is definitely an all-rounder in that respect, able to score goals and assist as well. And I think that dual threat is almost even better than maybe just a one-trick pony sort of thing. But just look at Antonio's position on this chart, by the way. Bottom left. This is what I'm talking about. He has sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit, hasn't been as active, not getting those clear-cut opportunities as much as I'd like. So this is why I'm sort of suggesting Antonio out next week. I wonder whether I'll go through with it, because you kind of need an alternative as a forward if you're not going to take a hit, but you could have a hit to move to a 3-5-2 with a Jota or a Foden, which is probably what I might edge towards if I'm going to be a little bit more bold. But definitely interesting. A lot of premiums letting us down. Cristiano Ronaldo, Lukaku, De Bruyne, Fernandes, all not really doing that much compared to the likes of Salah.
And if you're honest to yourself, especially after this game week where people stepped away and they were brave, and even though Salah had United, and I sat here last week and I argued that Salah's probably the best player in the world right now, is there anyone out there, unless you're looking for a big risk and a big jump, you win, you lose, you accept it, right? Don't moan about it. Do you have anything in your brain that would pull you away from a Salah captaincy?
What if Lukaku was fit, for example?
Anyone, everyone's fit in the whole world. Is there any game week that you're thinking about in the form that he's in? Let's say the game week 10, 11, 12, 13, Brighton, West Ham, Arsenal, Southampton. Any game, right? He's fit until the end of December, whatever. Is there any part of you for anything coming up that's making you think, I won't captain Salah?
No, probably not. I mean, it's the boring answer.
And because people say, oh, it's not about effective ownership, it's about points. I get it. I do understand what effective ownership is, but he's got the form. He's arguably the best player in the world right now. There's nothing in my head that's telling me don't captain him. So therefore, those premium options you've just listed just feels like a waste of money. If I'm just going to stick the armband on Salah, I might as well surround him with a full team of mid-priced players, and I can take the risks on Foden and players like that, because I'll have like Jimenez on my bench or something crazy.
So talking about Salah perma captain, I personally really hate picking a captain every week. I prefer if they just got rid of captaincy, because I think you can grind to a better rank without that fluctuation.
That's an interesting take.
So this take is the fact that if everyone's going to captain Salah anyway, then you sort of remove that volatility and everyone just sort of grinds away with their transfers. From the interest of versatility in the game, it's actually probably an advantage if Salah keeps this form and then goes away on the African Cup of Nations in January, because people are going to have to source other alternatives. And that's when it becomes difficult. But we've got another couple of months of Salah potentially being in red hot form if he can continue it. And then he goes off to the African Cup of Nations. So I mean, it's not clear cut that he's going to be perma captain for the rest of the season. Things change so quickly in FPL, and there's no doubt that Liverpool will go through a rough patch. Just, it won't be like a rough patch, but it'll just be like they won't set the world alight with the number of goals they're scoring. So things will change, but for now, I think just don't overthink it and captain Salah. So yeah, I think it's an interesting situation at the moment.
It's a gambler's risk, isn't it? Like, I completely get why you would not captain Salah in a game week, especially the game week just gone, United away. Even though I made the points on this stream about a pro Salah captaincy, not just because of his form, but lots of other things we discussed last week. If you didn't captain Salah away to United, I completely understood the decision.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not against it whatsoever, because it wasn't a crazy call. But he's just so good right now.
He's really good.
It's a risk. It's a huge risk. That, again, people who didn't captain Salah this week have been massively, massively punished. Like, what was it? Is it Bournemouth when he did it to everyone? When a lot of people sold him before a Bournemouth match and he went and got like a hat trick? That's what Salah does. But the difference that time is people sold him because he was out of form, and then boom, he hit them. He has done nothing to deserve you not give him the. He's scored in every game except one. Well enough at home to Burnley, which is a strange one. But he's scored in every single game. Why just wouldn't you captain him?
I think the difference was before the Man United match, Man United hadn't been like super bad before that match, but this 5-0 thrashing really put the nail in that coffin, basically, and made Salah just even more. Gave it more evidence that he was a perma-captain option. Yes, he was super consistent in the previous games, but he hadn't scored hat-tricks. So, I mean, it was just... And against it was a tough opposition. And we were said beforehand when we had that argument about who was the best captain, Lukaku against Norwich or Salah against Man United. One of the arguments to say is Liverpool-Man United, it's a big match, it's a big occasion, you never know what's going to happen. And the fact that Man United completely capitulated to an outstanding Liverpool team is the outcome. So it's easy to say, yeah, Salah was the best captaincy option. But I feel like I got lucky because I probably would have captained Lukaku against a really good Norwich team. A really bad Norwich team. You never know. He might have scored a hat-trick too. But
I just fear now, though. People were brave last week, and rightly so, to have a go and attack rank. I salute you if you didn't think he was going to do against United, and I completely understand why you captained against him. But I think that the game week just gone with a hat trick, plus the fact he's scoring in every game, and the fact that he's arguably right now the best player in the world, I think now people are going to be forced to pick him as captain, because I think that has that's got people running from the battlefield in retreat for anyone daring to dream of not captaining Mo Salah. Is
there potential that he gets a more than a 200% effective ownership with like triple captains here and there?
The fact that he's 67.9% owned.
It's crazy.
And that's just going to go up. That ain't going to go down. He's 67.9. Can you think of a player who's ever been as high as that?
I can't. I don't know. Maybe Henry back in the day or something like that.
67.9%. It's absolutely bonkers. It's bonkers.
It's crazy.
Which means that if you have got the guts to go out there, like I said this when I said Lukaku was going to get rest against Norwich, right? And people were screaming at me, it's not going to happen, it's rubbish. And then the next day, Tuchel came out and said, he's physically tired, he's mentally tired. And then he gets started against Malmo. And I was like, I'm told you, I reckon he's going to get benched. Mane's just been benched. Do you think there's any possibility that he gets benched this weekend?
Who? Mane?
Salah,
stop it. Right, we're moving on.
I've said this against Lukaku and he got benched. I said it. And I know he got injured, but I think Lukaku was going to get benched against Norwich. I do. The manager came out the next day and said he's physically and mentally fatigued. And the fact that he got injured against Norwich, that's what actually kept him out. But I reckon he was going to. But why not? He can't play he can't play 90 minutes every week.
I know that we're playing good cop, bad cop, but you've now gone to demon cop with mentions of Salah benching. Right, we're moving on.
Saying, there is a bit of a break. He plays on the 30th. Who have they got in the Champions League?
I can't even remember. I've moved on. I'm not talking about Salah benching. I've got.
He's got Preston midweek in the League Cup. He could be playing in that.
Absolutely not.
But no, he's got Brighton on the Saturday, and then he's got Atletico Madrid on the Wednesday, and then a top 4 game against West Ham on the Sunday, and then Arsenal.
You are actually taking time out of my life to talk about Salah benching.
People think I'm the mean one. That is so mean. I'm telling you. I hope that if he doesn't start against Brighton, I hope I receive a heartfelt apology from you,
mate. I'll send you a card all the way to the way to Taiwan if he gets benched.
That's lovely.
A written apology, but he won't. So I think I'm good. But anyway, we've moved on to the shot map, which is the average shot distance that the top players in the league in terms of number of shots. And this is collared at 15 shots, I think it is. So like Thomas Partey makes it on here, which is weird. It's super weird. But yeah, I mean, these players in the last 6 game weeks have had 15 or more shots. And you can see Salah there with the most, 27 shots, and a massive green segment, which just shows that he has plenty of those shots on target, more than any other player. And not many shots off target, so it just shows that how good he's been. It's either blocked
it's ridiculous. I thought we'd seen the best from him, and then he sort of went down a little bit like last season. But Liverpool as a whole. But again, I pointed this out about the key loss wasn't just Van Dijk's defensive ability. It was the pinging balls he would do, and to open up play and open it up for Trent and Salah especially. That's what they really missed from Van Dijk, as well as his defensive ability. But that he is just out
of this world.
Just watching him, even when he scored that goal against Watford last week, and I've seen like the fan cameras, like recordings of them at the game, and they clapped him. People think that's poor mentality, but you've got to appreciate football sometimes. Was it Ronaldinho against Real Madrid when he destroyed him at like 10, 15 years ago, whatever, and the Real Madrid fans clapped him? Because you just got to be like, this is beautiful. This is football. And I think you've just got to really admire that. He's been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Enough love in for Salah, although I would love to talk about Salah for the rest of the stream.
Just a shame he's going to get benched Brighton this week.
God, I swear to God, Rob. Right, let's move on rather than Salah. Yes, we know Salah's good. Everyone knows Salah's good. We've got Vardy and Antonio top of that tree, but they're shooting typically close to goal, which I think is fairly intuitive. But the thing that worries me about Antonio is that they're creeping up that percentage of shots off target. And if you're shooting that close to goal, your shots should not be off target, really. So you potentially, if Vardy's out, then that doesn't make him an option. But I'm just kind of talking myself into, I don't really want Antonio for this next 5 after Villa. But it's good that he's shooting close to goal if you are keeping. In the next layer down, you've got Salah, Cristiano Ronaldo, Aubameyang, who's the shot volume is increased for Aubameyang. He's actually not normally in the stats department. So are we not talking about Aubameyang for a reason? Why not? And
that's for Arsenal.
He could be a decent pick. Well, Arsenal's fixtures are getting tougher, aren't they? What do they look like?
He's 4 goals and assists this season. Leicester, Watford, Liverpool, Newcastle. I mean, he's 4.4% owned, but not for me. No.
Yeah, I mean, you never know because
just still don't trust. I don't know. I know they were so good against against Villa, but I also said the things I pointed out. I said Palace are going to go to Arsenal and do them over. And I was 10, 15 seconds away from being right.
Whether or not
when
Arsenal
equalised right at the end.
Yeah, which is completely fair enough. And I think, I think I was in full agreement that Palace probably could get a result there, even though probably Arsenal went in it as favourites. But even if Arsenal aren't predicted to win every single game, I think Aubameyang could still be a legitimate option when quite a lot of the premium options in this game aren't really firing. So
it's just 10 million.
Yeah.
10 million for that's Son and Vardy money. It's no, not for me.
Okay, fair enough. Worth monitoring. I'm going to monitor him. Who knows? But I mean, Mane's there as well. Watkins. We mentioned Watkins right at the start of this stream. Aston Villa are near close to the ticker. The problem is that most of his chances typically are small chances, and that's, he might get a purple patch where he starts converting them, in which case maybe jump on him. But at the moment, if he's not scoring, then just keep monitoring the stats. I wouldn't be rushing to get him in until he starts scoring. A bit further out, we've got Mbomo and Bowen. Bowen seems to go under the radar.
I want to talk about Mbomo first because I made a mistake, right? When I said about the red part, and I'd said before about, and you corrected me as well, because for me, when I was growing up, it counted. I don't know where I'd seen it, or maybe it's just my friends, but we counted hitting the woodwork as a shot on target. Now, I know the definition or how OptaStats does it or how you do your graphs. It's about a goal-scoring opportunity that has been prevented is a shot on target, right? But for me growing up, like if I smashed the woodwork, we just count that as a shot on target. And is it 6 that he's done?
I can't remember the exact numbers, but I mean, he's got 16 shots here.
I feel confident it's 6 that he's hit the woodwork. Right.
It was 6 before this game week. So if he's hit the post again this week, then it would be an extra one. But
so we'll just go off 6 because we know it's at least 6, right? So he's had 16. Now, if I'm not saying change it to green, but 6 of those 16 have actually come off the woodwork. So when you say he's missed the target, it feels like he's fluffed it. It feels like saying he's put it wide in a 1-on-1 or he's skied it on a half volley kind of thing. If he's had 16 and 6 of those has hit the post or hit the crossbar, that deserves like a blue color or something. Like it's so close that it doesn't feel fair to say it's off target, but it's not technically on target. So I understand when people say, like, look at the red of Mbomo and he's so not clinical, but 6 of his 16 hitting a post or crossbar, like people used to complain about Watkins doing that all the time, right? Last season.
So what you're saying is that that red, that shot off target section isn't because he hasn't got the ability to get the ball close to goal. It's just because he's probably a little bit unlucky that shot.
Right, we're talking like an inch, or a spin of the ball that knocks it inside the post rather than outside. If you've got a striker or anyone that hits the post, you've got your head, you're like, oh, that's so close. That the closest you can get to scoring is hitting the post or.
But I kind of find it weird how he is head and shoulders above the rest in terms of the number of shots that he's actually hit the bar. He's has 6 and the rest is like everyone else is on 1 or 2 or whatever. Is it a trend? Is it something that he just doesn't have that accuracy close to goal, that ability to adjust his feet, enabled to get it completely on target? I just don't understand. There must be something there that maybe just makes him less good. I don't know. But yeah, I think Mbomo in the next 3 fixtures, if he's fit, of course, he's a really decent option. And there's no reason why he can't turn it around in terms of shots on target. And Tony seems to be feeding him in with, all of the big chances created. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with Mbomo at all. But
I'm looking at his XG shots now, and they look on the members area, and there's only one that's at the edge of the side of the 18-yard box, but the red ones are all like on the 18-yard line down the middle. Like if you were to see, oh, this guy shoots from here, it looks good. It looks really, really, really good. That I'm looking at it about him being clinical. He's inside the box. He's by the penalty area. The XG for each one is like 0.2 or 0.07 or something like that. Like, I don't think he's fluffing it. Like, I want to bring it back. I just feel as though hitting the post or hitting the bar is like the closest you can get to scoring. So I just feel as though when people think, you see the stats and you see the red and you think, oh, he must be, just a poor finisher. I think if you're hitting the post or hitting the woodwork, I just think you're extremely unlucky.
Yeah, I agree with you, to be honest. And it's definitely some good context you've added there, because I think this makes Mbeumo look worse than potentially he is. But
yeah, because if I sky it, if I absolutely fluff it and it goes out for like a goal kick next to the corner flag, that counts in this stat and in Opta stats or whatever brand of stats, whatever people use, right? That counts the exact same as me hitting the post.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that he's on this chart in the top 18 players for number of shots is testament enough that he's probably worth that, whatever it is, 5.5, 5.6 million. Is it more than that? I can't even remember what he's priced
at. It's 5.6. That's why I'm tempted to swap him with Gallagher, even though I like the idea of it changing. Gallagher, by the way, has been fantastic footballing wise. Just maybe not there fantasy football wise. And I said I didn't particularly want to double up on Brentford, but I might bring in Mbeumo if he's all right with his injury, and then in a couple of weeks take out Tony. So double up for that beautiful 3 coming up: Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle, and then shift Tony out and keep Mbeumo as my sometimes starting, sometimes benched guy, because the numbers are there. That's it. When we say about what's the difference between like him and Traore because of how many points he's getting and how many twos, and I mean, he scored 2 goals all season. That's it. No assist, 2 goals all season. And it's because of these underlying numbers. It's the fact that you look at where he's shooting from and you look at how close he's getting. I know it's red here, but we know he's hitting the post or the crossbar. I think it's fantastic value.
I think it's a decent move to move Gallagher to Mbeumo right now, because Palace have City and then Brentford have Burnley, Norwich, and Newcastle. So
when we go to my starting 11, you'll see why it's a difficult call.
Okay, potentially. But yeah, I think Gallagher, whenever I was watching like BT Sports Score or whatever, and everyone gives updates on the game, there was the Crystal Palace game, and every single update had a good play from Gallagher or a good cross in and Benteke missed it or whatever. So clearly Gallagher is playing a part in that team, and we know that he's got plenty of attacking returns. He plays as a
centre mid that gets forward in the faces.
Yeah, like a Gundogan sort of role.
All the time. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
But sometimes I feel here's the downside for Gallagher. They've got some really exciting players at Palace actually now, the likes of Zaha and I forgot his name. What's the young lad called that started? He got his first start this week.
Elise?
That's the one, yeah. They've got some exciting, and when like Edse gets back, here's the problem. They're a bit greedy. There's sometimes when Gallagher's looking for that cutback, he wants them to drag it back to him, and they don't find him.
We like a bit of greed in FPL, though. I mean, Salah's probably the most...
Not when it's not my player being greedy. It's the others. That's the difference. So go and get your Elise, your Zahas. Gallagher's suffering FPL-wise. Fantastic footballing-wise. I think he's having a great season. And he's really important to this. And you see, he was the assist of the assist for one of the goals this week.
That's usually the case, to be honest.
But that's something that I don't want from my FPL player. So
yeah,
I think maybe an Mbeumo, Tony double up. Because like I said earlier that go Kane to Son, but not for a minus, just sort of bring them in and then swap them around and then take the other one out. That's what I'm thinking about Mbeumo and Tony.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Bring him in, have them for a little bit together, and then Tony goes and then Mbeumo stays, kind of thing.
I think if
I'll make the decision later. Maybe Tony bangs and Mbeumo goes cold or gets dropped, and then I get him out instead. So
we'll come to your team in a minute, but yeah, I think if Rafinha is confirmed out for maybe a few game weeks, then it's an easy move from Rafinha to Mbeumo if you don't already own. But I just want to touch on the last few players on this chart on the shots map. We've got the players here who shoot fairly far out. And these are consistent people these are the Rafinhas, these are the Bruno Fernandes, these are the Yuri Tielemans. They always come on this chart and they're always at the bottom. The thing that's sort of evidence for me is Bruno Fernandes has an increasing number of shots off target percentage, and that sort of worries me from a FPL perspective, not to mention obviously Man United's form and low morale after that. So if Bruno Fernandes isn't necessarily as good an option, he's maybe deteriorating a little bit, and if he's off penalties then. But I guess it's not really that much of a concern for most FPL managers because they might have been off him anyway in preference to the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo. But just wanted to evidence that. I mean, I think Fernandes he's a super dynamic player with a lot of assist potential, but the number of shots that he's having is just increasingly off target, and that just worries me objectively. We've got Ben Rama there, who is 21 shots is very, very decent. It's the third most on this chart. Not many on target, I'd say. So interesting, because Ben Rama's evolution in this FPL season has been, I'm going to score loads at the start of the season without any stats and then get all my stats and not score. So it seems a bit of a weird trend, but so we've got Harry Kane there. Maybe he's going to get some form. Plenty of shots on target. I'd like to see him shoot a little bit closer to goal, though. Yuri Tielemans seems to be in incredible form. What do you think of Yuri Tielemans?
What a strike that he got this weekend. I think in a way similar for me to Gallagher. I think he's a fantastic footballer. I think he's very important to Leicester City. He's 6.4, 3 goals, 2 assists. Not for my fantasy team, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean, he's got 2 double-digit holes back-to-back, right? 2 10-pointers. But then the rest, that's just 2 weeks out of 9. Sorry, out of 8. No, out of 9. Yeah.
But you still you go Kovacic, though.
But he's consistent throughout the whole season. That's my point.
You'd go Kovacic over
he's
Tielemans.
1.1 million cheaper.
Oh, my days. I regret bringing this back up, actually.
What? Tielemans has got 1 more point than Kovacic, and Kovacic is 1.1 million cheaper. So
Okay.
yes, I would pay I would save 1.1 million for 1 point. You've got me.
Days.
I'm not always playing for points. Sometimes I'm playing for money. But 1.1 million is a lot.
Oh dear. I really, really, really hope Rafinha is fit for Norwich. I really, really do.
Oh yeah. Oh.
It's such a
100%.
pain. Such a pain. Oh, Lukaku getting injured for Norwich as well was a pain enough, but is everyone just going to get injured before Norwich? It seems like super torturous. Anyway.
And now they've obviously got the red card, the suspension in defence, and injuries and just general woefulness for Norwich, to be honest.
Let's have a look at how you're lining up for game week 10, and then we'll end the video after we've seen my team, because we've been talking for an hour and 38 minutes. It's been quite a long time, but we've had a lot to get through. But we've got your team up on screen, Rob, a 4-3-3. I would expect nothing less. Captain Salah, what a shock. And talk us through it.
I'm just thinking of Guaita or Foster, if I'm honest. I wanted to roll a transfer. So earlier when I said about Mbommo, why not bringing him on? Because you look at my starting 11 and I've got Livramento on my bench against Watford. And let's just say I brought Mbommo on. I'm in that horrible situation where, again, it looks like I've got a good team. On paper, it looks fantastic if they all start and everything's all sunshine and rainbows, but that's just probably not going to be the case. You know, maybe Christensen's dropped again. Mount has a rest. Cancelo. I'm baffled by Cancelo. Absolutely baffled, because he's playing all the time. And it's one of those situations where he's going to get dropped now. He's played 90 minutes every single game week. I think, isn't he like the only Manchester City player to have done that?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Edison hasn't done it. Diaz hasn't done it. Has anyone else played? No, surely not.
Yeah, I think it's probably spot on.
Diaz is the only player that's played 90 minutes every single game. Is this the week he gets played? Is this the week? And then the week I finally really want him to play, like this week, he's probably going to get benched.
There's no point even thinking like that, though. You just have to ride it.
Yeah. So you look at my team, and you hopefully people are thinking, that's but yeah, Guaita's got City. Let's just pretend that doesn't exist. Trent Brighton, double City against Palace, Christensen against Newcastle, and then Salah, Mount against Newcastle, Rafinha against Norwich, Kane against United, and Tony against Villa, Tony against Burnley. I mean, that sounds lovely.
It's decent. I'm really interested.
I would bring Mbomo in for Gallagher and put Mbomo first bench over Livramento, who's got Watford.
Yeah, it just seems unnecessary if you're going to do that.
And I'd rather just roll my second transfer and then next week probably say, see you later, Kane, jiggle about a bit and have 2 free transfers and try not to take a hit rather than make a bench transfer, which is a good one. You know, a Mbomo first bench, Cancelo doesn't play. I've got double guys against Burnley and then Norwich coming on next week. But I think I'd just rather, I don't know, keep my starting 11, have a decent first bench with Livramento and see what I can get with 2 free transfers next week. But this depends. I mean, if Rafinha's out, for example, I'll probably do something.
Yeah, I think you have to sort something out. But yeah, I don't think, playing 5-2-3 with Livramento coming in at the back is the end of the world either. If you have to bench Rafinha, if he's only out for a game week fingers crossed he's fit and we don't even need to think like that. But the big thing that I'm interested in is the Kane versus Man United, because it's like Tottenham haven't exactly been setting the world alight with the amount of goals they've been scoring, and obviously Man United are fresh off this terrible result against Liverpool. I really wonder whether Man United will bounce back or whether Spurs will have the same level of joy against United. I really don't know. I can't call it.
So I'm just going to leave it. I think that's the best thing. I don't know what to do, so I'm going to do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you brought Kane in, right? To have a few fixtures where you keep him and see what happens. Because
we don't know about Lukaku. I'm all right with Mount. I'd be gutted if Mount gets dropped after banging a hat-trick and Christensen miss another game. I'd be pretty gutted about that, but that's just it. That's what I got to do. But Kane will play unless he's injured, right? I mean, Kane's not going to get dropped.
Yeah, I really don't think Mount will go anywhere now. I think he was first choice regardless. I think he was just nursed back into the starting 11 after the injury. But Newcastle away is a tasty fixture for Mount. Anything is a bonus for me. He's done all he needs to do. A hat-trick and an assist is incredible stuff. Anything else in the next couple of games will be an absolute bonus. But yeah, I think it's a decent looking team. You might get some save points for Guaita.
It did last week. I got 101 points, but yeah, I don't know. There's always something stupid that's going to happen. I mean, like Salah's going to get injured this week and FPL is just going to destroy itself.
Oh, come on. Look at the positive side. You've got a big green arrow. Something to build on now. And I think that's a really decent team. So, yeah, I think you can be really positive about that, mate, to be honest. Well, okay, let's move on to my team. I'll be even more positive. Misery guts, Eeyore over here. I've moved Semedo to Reece James because I had the exact money to do it. I couldn't afford Chilwell. Fingers crossed James plays. I think he adds an element of creativity to that Chelsea side. They looked different gravy really when he was playing. A decent goal. But I'm not really expecting goals from him. I'm just expecting assists and anything on top of the clean sheets for Chelsea is decent. I didn't have a Chelsea Chelsea defender, so the Chelsea clean sheet really hurt me this week.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So, but I can't complain. I had a really good game week. So I think that's a really decent back three. Hopefully, if James plays the next few, I think
great.
I think Azpilicueta probably comes back in and plays right centre back, to be honest, because they can't play Chalobah and Thiago Silva every game week because Thiago Silva's not getting any younger and Chalobah's not getting any older. yeah, he is, but he's still fairly young.
Chalobah's not getting any older. He's not going to keep those young legs forever, or is he?
So yeah, I mean that's my point. I think Azpilicueta just probably slots back in at right centre back rather than threatening
James.
James.
It's about the whole bench thing I said earlier. I've got Christensen. He doesn't play. I'll live with it. I think you'll accept the same for James. Right? The problem with James, why I'd rather have Chilwell maybe, is James has a tendency to come off the bench if he doesn't play.
Yeah.
But if he does play, there's what two other defenders in the entire league that you'd rather have over him. Trent and maybe Cancelo, and you've got both of them anyway. Like they're probably Chilwell. You put Chilwell in there, and that's probably the best back four in FPL right now.
I would rather have Chilwell than Reece James, but I couldn't afford him.
Just got to get there.
So that was a 0.0
We'll have the money
left.
if you get rid of Antonio, though.
Maybe
Or
for
De
the future.
Bruyne.
Yeah, so my plan is potentially moving Antonio out for a 4.5 or something like that, and getting.
This is a good team, though, Ted. Like, so I've got Kane taking up my funds there. You've got Kevin De Bruyne, but you've got Jimenez and Antonio, and I've got Kane. So
I don't think our team is too different. I think it's four.
it's weird, isn't it? Like we make different decisions and have different styles, but we still end up having similar players in the end.
So you've got Guaita, Christensen, and then
Diaz and Cancelo and Trent.
I've got Trent as well. Yeah, but you've got Kane, you've got Gallagher. Oh, maybe it's a little bit more different than I thought.
We've got,
but
okay, we've got Trent the same, Cancelo the same, Salah the same, Mount the same, Rafinha the same, Tony the same. We've got 7 of the same players.
So it's Jimenez, De Bruyne, James, Ramsdale versus your Guaita, Diaz, Gallagher, and Kane. Yeah,
Christensen.
Yeah, so it's not too different, but I think we've got key players in there who are destined to do well. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I mean, future plans for me: maybe Antonio out and maybe bring in Foden. Potentially, we'll see. But it will be a minus. It'll be a -4. Yeah. So fingers crossed we can build on these green arrows. But yeah, feeling pretty good at the moment. Hopefully, more green arrows to come. But yeah, let's leave it there, mate. We've been talking 1 hour and 45, so that was a pretty long one. But thank you so much for joining me, offering your insight as well. And yeah, I feel like we've got a really comprehensive view of the game week now, don't we?
Gobby mouth, mate. Just an opinionated person.
Well, when you start talking about Salah being benched,
I'm telling you, I'm going to be waiting for that letter, that sincere, heartfelt, loving letter when Salah is unfortunately benched this game week.
Oh my God, it'll be a Christmas card by the time it happens. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but it would be. Yeah, the mail is awfully slow.
Well, okay. Thanks all in the chat for joining us. Hope you have a really good game week 10. 6 days to go, and yeah, green arrows to you all.
Try and have some fun, guys. That's the only thing. Like, don't let it get to you. It's a game. Have a chat about it and just relax and enjoy it.
Exactly. That's what it's for. But I can completely, understand like if you do have a bad game week, it puts me in a mood. I don't know about you, but yeah. But you have to celebrate it when you do have a good game week. We don't know how to celebrate good game weeks. That's the thing. In sport,
I've been knee sliding all around the house.
Maybe it's just me then.
Maybe a cup of coffee this morning, just running, slid on my knees, got coffee everywhere. My wife was furious.
What have you done this, Rob? Oh yeah, 100+ points in FPL.
Captain banged it 101. She's like, "What are you talking about? Why didn't you captain Lukaku?" And I said, "Don't get into that. I don't want to discuss it. I've just discussed it with Ted. I ain't discussing it with you."
Wow, love it. An insight into the FPL Hall household. Love it.
Yeah.
Right, we'll leave it there.